Hey guys, Chris from Provo Beast Audio Installation, and in today's video we're doing a tailgate backup camera on this 2004 Ford F-150. Now in this install we're going to show you how to integrate that new backup camera to an existing aftermarket radio. Let's get started. Here at the bench, the camera kit we're going with is a tailgate handle replacement kit by Red Wolf, and essentially here what this will do for us is allow us to integrate a camera in a factory OEM looking location. Now this replaces the current tailgate handle in the tailgate itself. Now it comes with a harness, a gasket here, a couple of connection pieces as needed, and your loom that'll carry that image from that camera all the way up to whatever screen you're using to display that image. Now in our case, we're doing a double-din radio. We already have an install of a double-din radio on the channel. We can link that video in the description, which can walk you through step-by-step on how to do one in your own F-150 at home. This radio, we want to automatically cycle over to that image when we're backing up. Generally speaking, most aftermarket radios are going to have some sort of trigger wire. Now most major brands at trigger wire is purple-white. That needs to be hooked up to some sort of signal that is showing 12 volts when we're backing up and backing up only. That'll automatically cycle over the radio to that reverse gear image. Now there are a couple of different ways to wire your camera. You can wire it on option number one, which is easier, just off the tail light or reverse light positive and negative wire, and essentially here on the end of one harness here, you'd run this to the tail light positive and ground. Additionally, what that will do is provide a reverse trigger wire where this end will connect into your radio's purple-white. And this is your video image output, and that'll connect to your radio or display's camera input. The downside of this method, even though it is easier, the camera's only going to work when it sees power from that reverse light. So when you're going down the highway, the camera's not on, it's not usable. What we like to do is take it a step further and then wire the camera on accessory power, which means rather than powering this camera off of the reverse light, we'll power it instead off of an accessory source. So this end that generally goes to your reverse light, power and ground, we're not going to power it here. We'll cap this end off. We'll still ground it because we still need to ground our camera. And then instead, this end, we're going to repurpose our trigger wire here off this RCA video output. And we're going to feed accessory power into that, which is in turn going to power the camera. The downside of this method is now we're using that trigger wire that used to trigger the radio to go in reverse as our power wire. And now we don't have a trigger wire left over. And being the age of the truck, there's no smart harness. There's no way for us to easily snag 12-volt reverse from the harness. So we're going to have to find that separately or run a separate wire. Now there is a technique where we can grab a reverse gear trigger wire from the kick panel on the driver's side, and we'll show you where to do that here in just a moment. So like I said, we're going with option B. We need to get the tailgate current handle out to get this one installed and start pulling wire towards the dash cavity. Alright, so here is our replacement kit and the factory kit. Now our factory bezel here, it has the key cylinder, which we'll need to transfer over to our current kit. Outside of that, that's all we need from the factory side. If you don't have the key cylinder, you can just put a piece of ABS plastic or a blank to cover up that hole. Alright, so we got that all installed. Everything's looking good here. We went ahead and just greased up all our fittings. And then double check to make sure it's all adjusted with your new handle. So it opens and shuts before you actually put on the service cover. Once you confirm that everything's working okay, everything's lubricated, we ran our cable there. There is a service hole there that runs down through this back of the tailgate and out there. All right, so we got that all pulled through, all nice and split loom there. Now let's go ahead and put on our service panel. So with this all back together, there is the loom that goes from the camera down up underneath. Then we fished it out here. You saw us pull out the rear tail light here. This is going to give us the access to the reverse light, positive and negative, based on the wiring configuration you choose at home. Now there's going to be two harnesses to the back of that light. The green one is our reverse harness light. Now in that harness, there's going to be two wires here. There's going to be a black, which is your ground, and there's going to be a black with a pink stripe, which is your reverse light positive wire. Now, generally speaking, again, as mentioned on the bat, there's two different ways that you can wire this. Either simply off the power and ground of the reverse light, so the camera only works in reverse. That's the simplest and the easiest way. Or you can run a trigger wire from this pink white all the way to the radio and run your camera off of the accessory, so you can use it more than just in reverse. Now, that is up to you. There is another place we can access this, so you don't have to run another wire all the way to the front for a trigger wire. We can get this in the kick panel. I'll show you what that looks like here in a moment. This is the wire that comes from the tailgate. We plugged it into our long harness that's included with our camera kit. We also fit that back down. We'll show you where that goes here in a moment. So we made that connection here, and off this harness is that red and black wire. Again, if you're powering this just off of the reverse light power, you'd simply connect this. Red goes into the black with the pink stripe, and black goes into black. And that would simply power the camera in reverse. What we're going to do, since we're going off of accessory, we're not going to use this end of the red wire. We're going to actually heat shrink and cap this off. We'll just ground our camera here at this grounding location. This had a camera previously, so we got to insulate these wires from the last install. But we're going to solder into that. In our ground here, again, we're not going to power the camera or trigger it from here. You can snag this signal if needed, so we're going to tape up our connection. And we also went ahead and put some heat shrink over the positive side that we're not using. Just mind you can't hook up both. You can't hook up the positive side to the reverse light and the pigtail to accessory, or else you'll backfeed your tail lights and you can blow fuses that way. So we capped off that end with some heat shrink. Here we are. There's what our nice little camera looks like here. We still need to wipe everything down from fingerprints, but for the most part, it looks great. Looks factory. Of course, it's aftermarket, and it moves the camera traditionally down here all the way up to this point, so you have a much better vantage point when you're backing up or trying to hook up a trailer or something like that. Now this is where our wire comes out from the tailgate. You can actually kind of see the bottom of the tailgate there. And then this is where we fit it up into the tail light cavity. That's where we made our connection to our main harness. And then our harness comes back down here. And what we did with our main harness, this came up and over. Then this is our main wiring loom. We're going to zip tie our harness to right there. Working our way forward, right above the spare tire. Continued along here, along that factory loom, up and over the rear axle, moving forward, and then to about the point of the gas tank, we go on the outside of the frame rail. You can kind of see right up in there where we come up and over, following that factory loom, working our way down, continue working your way, having it zip tied along our factory wiring here. This is where it comes on out, and this is the rubber grommet we're going to go through. Now, alternatively, there is a factory boot here too as well. Go to the factory rubber grommet, or the one that currently is purposed for wire. We can poke a little hole and pull our wire through that. Totally up to you, depending on the gauge size of your wire. And then we're going to go top side to find the access to where we see these two spots, so we can pull our wire through those grommets into the cabin of the truck. Now there is that big rubber grommet. We can easily pull our wire through there. There's also the smaller one, up to you. Then what we're gonna do is we're in here, we're gonna go up through into the cavity of the radio. Additionally here, since we're down here, rather than pulling a new wire for a reverse trigger signal, here's your main loom here. And this one's actually pretty easy to get to. There's the same color as you find in the taillight cavity. There's a black with a pink stripe, which is your reverse gear trigger wire. If we tap into that, we can run. We have some light green wire that we have left over. We can actually just tap into that, snag that signal, because this is only on when the truck is in reverse. And so we can use that signal to cycle our aftermarket radio to the reverse camera image. So we don't have to do that manually. Again, you can also just snag the same wire at the reverse light. But if you're powering your camera off of accessory, this is the easier spot rather than pulling new wire. Now, again, if you're powering your camera only on the reverse light, positive and negative, you don't need to go to this, as the pigtail off the RCA end will be your trigger wire. So we pulled our wire up through there, made a little incision within the grommet, and as you saw us also tap into the black with the pink stripe wire, and we pulled those two along, up along into the dash, and there's plenty of channels to go straight across. What we did is now pulled it into the dash cavity. So from this point, we're going to show you where to make your connections on your aftermarket radio. All right, so we're here in the car, we're ready to start hooking up our camera to our radio. Now remember, this light green wire goes to that black with a pink stripe. This is going to be a reverse trigger wire, because again, we're powering our camera off of accessory. And here's the video output from the camera and the repurposed trigger wire we're using to power our camera. So we're going to grab our harness adapter that we built when we installed the radio. Now our trigger wire, we're going to hook it up to the trigger wire of our radio. Add on the crimp cap. Crimp that on there. Now we want to power our camera off of accessory, and when we built our harness, in the harness adapter there's a red wire. It's an analog red wire. It's our accessory wire, and we just teed into that. So we're going to also add crimp cap on there. So we made our two connections. Red goes to the accessory wire of the radio. We just teed into the red wire of our harness. And then our trigger wire goes to the trigger wire of the radio. Ours happens to be purple white. Now at this point, we can grab our radio and get it reinstalled. Alright, so we got the radio all back in here. Now, it's always important on your radio to ensure that your reverse trigger is on. And so basically, for the most part, that's going to be under some sort of system settings. Ours is currently turned on. It's ready to go. So we're good to go there. Now, because we hooked it up to that black with a pink stripe wire to trigger the radio, we'll put it in reverse, and we got a backup image. Nice thing is you can still see a little bit of the bumper there to help you identify where you are. Pull it out of reverse. Now, because we wired the camera on accessory, the camera is actually still on. We just are not looking at it. So we can call upon the camera by force calling upon the camera, but we can use the camera if we're going down the highway, which is super cool. So that's about it for this install. If you have any questions on what we did here, go ahead and post a comment below. And if you like any of the parts that we used, we'll link those in the description for you, along with other helpful install videos like a radio install or speaker install on this truck. If you liked what you saw, be sure to hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe. We post great content on the channel all the time. We will see you in the next video.